Hey ninth graders, in this video I'm going to try to explain, just give you some tips to help you out with pages 305 and 306 in your grammar book. So it might be good, definitely be good to open your book to those pages. I'll reference some of the examples or some of the exercises, the questions. Maybe get some notebook paper to write some of these things down, but just to help you through, because this is reviewing for upcoming tests and everything, and I just wanted to make sure to give you as much help as possible. Okay, on page 305 we're reviewing all the parts of speech, just trying to get a good handle and kind of put them all together. How do we identify them and everything and use them? And at the very top it says, remember, you cannot tell what part of speech a word is until you determine its use within a sentence. Okay, it's got a couple examples there. The word desk is used in both sentences, but different ways. Miranda bought a new desk lamp. Desk is describing lamp, so it's an adjective there. In the second example, clear everything off your desk. Okay, there it's a noun. It's actually a thing. It's talking about the desk in that, so it would be a noun in that context. And that's what really these next exercises on page 305 and 304 are talking about, using words regarding their function rather than just what they look like. Many times you can tell what a word is by what it looks like, but sometimes it doubles as a different part of speech. Okay, so for exercise A, I'm looking at that one first. I'm not going to read every question and go through every question. I'm going to let you do that on your own, but I am just going to cover each exercise. And so if you want to pause the video between each exercise and do it, you can, or just watch the video and then complete the pages afterwards. But exercise A, it wants you to distinguish between noun, pronoun, or adjective. Those are your three options. Those are the only three options. Is it a noun, adjective, or pronoun? Nouns, people, places, things, or ideas. Pronouns take the place of a noun. Okay, so they kind of do the same thing as a noun, pretty much. And then adjectives describe nouns and pronouns. So they all kind of work together, these three in groups. So here's your tips. For a noun, just go back and think. When you're looking at the word, is it a person, place, thing, or idea? Is it any of those four things? Then it could possibly be a noun. And remember, as I've told you many times before in class, nouns usually come next to verbs. Okay, they're like subjects and verbs. The cat ran. Okay, the noun ran next to the verb. And just in many of these contexts and many of these sentences, the noun is going to be very right next to the verb. Okay, so that might help you out with that. Your pronouns. Honestly, pronouns can be one of the easiest parts of speech to pull out in a sentence, because 95% of the time what they look like is what they do. But the tricky part is, if you don't know what your pronouns look like, then that's why it's hard. So I've put these page numbers, page 176 and 177. Those cover pronouns. It's the start of the pronoun unit way back whenever we did that. And on page 176, it lists many of the pronouns in the kind of in the definitions there. On page 177, it talks about those indefinite pronouns: anyone, everyone, either, neither, both, few, many. Those words can be adjective, but many times if you just look at it, it's a pronoun. And that's why I really just encourage you to go back to those pages, maybe write some of them down on a note card, because if you see them, you will know, okay, this is a pronoun. The personal pronouns: I, me, he, she, we, it. Those are always pronouns. I'm going to go ahead and say that. I is not going to be anything else besides a pronoun. And so if you just memorize and just kind of look at them and say, oh, this is a pronoun, it's always a pronoun, that will greatly help in that context. But sometimes the pronouns do double as in adjectives, like both, many, some of them like that. And the way to help you figure out if it's an adjective or not, they do describe nouns and pronouns, so they'll come next to a noun or pronoun. Let me just look at a couple of them in your book. Number 1 says, galvanized steel is coated with zinc to prevent rust. Well, I'm just looking at the word steel. What is it around? I know it's not a pronoun. It doesn't look like a pronoun at all. If you go back and check, it doesn't. But it is next to the word is coated. And I know is the verb. And if you didn't figure it out already, because steel is a thing, it's the noun of the sentence. It is a noun. Okay, number 2 in exercise A, the squishy sponge pig in the bath delighted the child. Okay, we're looking at the word sponge. I know it's not a pronoun, doesn't even look like it. So it's either a noun or an adjective. Okay, it could be a noun, but let's just see what it's next to. The squishy sponge pig. Okay, squishy isn't a noun. Pig is a noun. What comes next to nouns? It's an adjective. It's an adjective describing the pig. What kind of pig? The sponge pig. Okay, so that's why it wouldn't be a noun. It's got to be an adjective, because nouns come next to verbs. Adjectives come next to nouns. Okay, just continue working through that. If you want to pause the video now, you can finish working on that exercise. Otherwise, I'm going to go on to exercise B and give you the tips there. For exercise B, it's talking about adjectives or adverbs, okay? Just those two options. Is it an adjective or is it an adverb? So here's your tips for that. Adjectives, as I just said with the last one, come next to nouns. And they're always a, an, and the. That's, a dead giveaway. If you just remember adjectives are a, an, and the, I don't know if any of these, those are in this exercise, but I wanted to pull that back to you just to remind you. Adjectives describe nouns, so they'll come next to nouns. Adverbs, of course, describe verbs. I don't have that up there, but they would come next to verbs. Of course, they can be different places in the sentence, whereas adjectives usually come next to the noun that they're describing. But ways to remember adverbs, they usually end in ly. I'm going to stop right now and look at number 1 of exercise B, because this will definitely catch you off guard. The early bird catches the worm. Now that one does have ly, but it comes next to a noun. This is going to usurp the idea that it ends in ly, because adverbs usually end in ly. But this one comes next to a noun, bird, early bird, making this one actually an adjective. So even though it does have ly, there's just a very few words in the English language that end in ly that are actually adjectives. Early is one of them. Friendly is another one. I can't think of another one off the top of my head. But just be aware that if you do see a word that ends in ly, it most likely is an adverb, but just do a double check to check and see what it's next to make sure it is an adverb. Okay, time words. Okay, yesterday, tomorrow, words like that. Also, at noon. Okay, so prepositional phrases. Many of the things that are italicized in this exercise are not just one word, they're whole phrases, whether it's a participle phrase or an infinitive phrase or prepositional phrases. But it's still going to tell you the time. Okay, when are we moving? At noon. When are we going to do this? I'm just trying to, before bedtime. Okay, I'm just trying to think something off the top of my head. Time, phrases, and words are going to be adverb. Okay, and these are adverb questions. So anything that tells you where or when is going to be adverb. Where are we going? To the park. When are we going? Next week. Let's look just a couple in your book. Exercise B, we already did number 1, that's an adjective. And number 2, we've got the word perfectly. It's just one word, perfectly. Quoted scripture is one perfectly good way to combat the devil. That ends in ly. It comes next to good, which is an adjective, and adverbs describe adjectives. This one is an adverb, so you can put that in the blank. I want to go to one more, number 3, because we've got a phrase here. It's not just one word this time. Of refugees. The shipload of refugees listened intently to the captain. Okay, so of refugees. What is it next to? What is it describing? What is of refugees? It's talking about the shipload. Okay, so shipload, what kind of shipload? The shipload of refugees Shipload is a noun. Adjectives describe noun. So this one's an adjective. Okay, so just kind of work through that. If you want to pause the video and do that exercise, you can. I'm going to exercise C and the tips for that. Exercise C. Prepositions or adverbs. That's what we're talking about. Is it a preposition or is it an adverb? Okay, so if you remember prepositions, they always have an object with them. It makes up the prepositional phrase. Prepositions in English do not occur by themselves. Most of the time, if it occurs by themselves, it will be an adverb. Because if you remember, some of the words on the preposition list can double as adverbs. So how do you tell? You just find out which one does it has an object or not. If it does have an object, it's a preposition. If there is no object, it's an adverb. Okay, like aboard what, on what, around what, beyond what. Does it have an object that completes that thought, that question? Let's look at a couple in your book. Exercise C. Everyone that walks along the narrow way faces adversity. The word is along, so just ask. Along what? Is it along anything? Yes, it's along the way. So it has an object, meaning it's a preposition. Number one, it's a preposition. Number two, the trellis in the garden had fallen down. This one should be very, very easy. Down what? Nothing. Okay, this is a dead giveaway. No object. This one's an adverb. It gets trickier when the adverb comes in the middle of the sentence. Let's look at number 3 real quick. The stallion leaped over the corral fence with ease. Over what? Over fence, the corral fence. Object, preposition. I'm going to do one more with you. Below is a station for the subway. Below what? Nothing. Below, we've actually got a verb here. Verb can't be an object. So below what? Nothing, no object. This one's an adverb. All right. Pause the video, do this one. Otherwise, I'm moving on to the last one, which is many times the hardest one. But my tip is just take it as slow and easy as you can. Okay? It's working with all the parts of speech. So you need to really take it one word at a time. I kind of like to do a process of elimination kind of thing. If you're not familiar with all the parts of speech. But here's some things that you can just look at. Always just go back to the beginning and find your subject and verb. Your subject's going to be a noun, so that should be a dead giveaway. It's a noun. If you find your verb, then you don't have to worry about that either. Okay? You've got your verb. Okay, so that's the first thing I would suggest doing, finding all your subjects and verbs in the sentence. Next, just try to look for the easy ones. If I've already talked about a, an, and the, and how they're always adjectives. You know, even if it's not italicized, you can still put, a or something above it, or mark it out, scribble it out, because you're like, okay, I know what that is. And of course, there can be multiple ones in the sentence. Just kind of making it as easy as possible. Many times when a student looks at an exercise like this and it looks very daunting and scary because you have no idea what even the first word is, make it easier for yourself by eliminating some of the things. Maybe just mark through it. That way you know, it just kind of helps your ease of mind. It's almost a mental thing. These are always adjectives. If you know what your prepositions look like, you can mark those out. You can go ahead and just kind of run through and find your prepositions. Sometimes they're italicized, maybe they're not, but it might be good because then maybe you can find the object after it, which would be a noun. Adverbs, again, just some tips for that. Usually ly words, time words, different things like that. Okay, I was just thinking if I had any more tips. Also, if you can remember what your pronouns are, I, we, he, she, it, anyone, everyone, those are pronouns. And so if you see it, you can just go ahead and mark it, okay? You don't have to go sentence by sentence. What I'm saying is, if you want to run through the exercise and find all the adverbs, or find all the prepositions, or so on and so like that. That way you know you at least have some correct, instead of just going one sentence at a time and just failing it miserably, right? All right. Well, hopefully this was helpful. I know it's difficult not being in front of you or being there with me and me showing you exactly what to do, but please communicate with me, ask questions. I just want to help you as much as I can. That's why I make these videos, okay? Have a great day, and see you later.